Hello again. So at the end of another week, and this week I have 3 things that I'd like to share with you. The first one is a Project Linus quilt called Hot Air Balloons, and I'll show you that first. So I've just finished this scrappy little quilt. As you can see, it has hot air balloons on. It's 33 inches by 34 inches, and I think that might suit a young child. I've washed it and dried it, and I'll show you something about the back. So that's the official label I've been given from Project Linus, and one of the things they asked me to do was to make sure that it was securely attached to the back. So I've incorporated it into the quilting, because apparently some people have been getting hold of the Project Linus quilts and selling them on for personal gain. That's really not good, is it? So that was the hot air balloon quilt. And now I'd like to show you my quilting journals. You might find that interesting. You might not. If not, fast forward to the next bit. But in my quilting journals, I record every quilt that I make, and it's an easy way to store things. It's just in an A4 book, and I'll show you that. But I think sometimes it'll be nice to look back over the years and see what I did and how I did it. And I do put notes sometimes about the way I sewed things, or the way fabric behaved, or fabric lines. So there's different things I put in there, and I'll show you that now. Well, I must admit, it's not very often that my sewing room looks like this. I've just finished the Enchanted Wings project, and so now it's time to start something new. And I thought I would show you my journal. So I keep a record of all of the quilts that I make in these A4 hardback spiral bound artist sketchbooks, and I'll show you inside. So I usually start each year with an outline of all the things that I would like to do or I'm thinking of doing, and then I will do a monthly jobs to do for January, this was, and then just keep rough notes of things that have gone on. And then I take a black and white photograph of the completed quilt. So this one was Autumn Breeze, and I decided to keep that one for myself. And as you can see, that's the 19th quilt I made for 2023. And then I keep a swatch of all the fabrics that I've used in the quilt, and I put myself some notes. Sometimes I spend more time decorating the page, depends on the mood I'm in. And you can see in bold letters there, Project Linus. So let's have a close-up for October. So the jobs for October was to complete the Enchanted Wings quilt and make 2 pillowcases, which I have. It's just some notes, and I use the Bethany Salt fabric range, and that's information about the artist who designed these fabrics. Then I've put down to make a Project Linus quilt, which I'm going to start today, and then video that process, which I'm doing at the moment. Reveal quilt journal video. Well, I'm not going to make a whole video of that, I've decided, so I'm doing that now. And I have an idea for a kaleidoscope quilt, a modern one, so I might do that later. But today, make a Project Linus quilt. So if you fast forwarded and you weren't interested in the journal, stop now if you're only interested in quilting, because I'm about to show you how to make this. The third and final thing I'd like to share with you this week is another quilt. It's 39 inches square for Project Linus, and this one is called, I'm not going to tell you, because I didn't make up my mind about a name for it till the end. So I'll save that. I always look forward to designing a quilt. I'm never put off by the blank page. I find it quite exciting. Kim, who's in charge of the Project Linus for Staffordshire, she said that 36-inch square quilts are popular. So I might work around a 36-inch. So now I have a working title. It's not very exciting, Project Linus, but that's what it is. It'll have a name when it develops. And we've got a 3-inch square here. This is to just represent that each block is worth 3 inches. And I've just marked out a block that measures 13.5 inches square, which is 14 squares by 14. Okay, let's have a look at the design. So in the back of this book I've scribbled block designs that I've seen, and I thought, oh, I'd like to have a go at making one of those, and this is one. I don't know the name of it. I've seen it on some of the barn style quilts that are being made at the moment. So I think I'm going to put that in the centre of this quilt, and this is 8 squares by 8 squares, so that'll form the nice centre. And now I'm going to go and have a look in my parts boxes and have a look and see what we've got, what colours. So there we go. I have cut all of the pieces for this lovely little quilt, what I hope will be a lovely little quilt, and all the details and requirements I will put on my community page. You just go to my home page, hit the button along the top where it says community page, and you'll see all the requirements there. But I started with this yellow. This was some fabric that I bought from a charity shop, and I think that will make a really lovely background, a little bit like a picnic blanket. So that will look nice, and then I wanted to contrast that. So I needed to cut about 6 more squares from my white stash. I had some of this extra. I had enough of everything else already cut. So it was just a matter of taking them from my spares box. So these squares are all 4 3/4 inches. So when I finish a project, if I have fabric over that is less than a fat quarter, any yardage less than a fat quarter, then I will try and process it by cutting it into 4 3/4 inch squares. These were all in my ready to go boxes, which I think will look lovely together. So we start off, that's the centre of the star, the points of the star in this yellow, then it comes out in aquas and pinks to the green, a little white border, and then into the yellow. So it does look a little bit spring at the moment, or even early summer. Perhaps I'll make 4 seasonal quilts for Project Linus. So I've worked out the detail that I need for this quilt. I still haven't named it, but I am thinking seasonal. So it'll probably be either summer or spring, depending on how it looks when it finishes. So that's a nice series of 4. And this will be roughly 40 inches, about 39.5 inches when it's finished square. So like I say, I have all of the details that you need. There were 9 different fabrics used in this one. So I've cut it into 3-inch squares or 4 3/4 inch. There's some longer pieces for the border with the half square triangles that you'll make from this fabric. And then there are the steps, just 5 steps to making this little quilt. Well, 6 with the border when I add that. Like I say, all of these details will be on my community page, and it's all free of charge, no hidden costs. So if that's something you're interested in, you can make your way there. Okay, let's start sewing. So now I'm going to sew all of these 4 3/4 inch squares together to make the half square triangles. So all of this side are in 2s. So there's 2 green, 2 aqua, 2 green with a green, 2 pink, 2 green, 2 pink, 2 tropical, 2 yellow and 2 tropical. Then we have 1 floral and 1 yellow. We have 6 white, 6 green and 6 white and 6 background. So I'm going to sew all the way around the edge, cut off the corners, press, cut on the diagonal. That will give me my half square triangles. So all my triangles now are prepared. So now let's put them together in a beautiful quilt. So there we are, all these delicious little half square triangles. And I'm just going to show you a little alteration I've made. So if you look on the white and the background half square triangle, you'll see the design in the background fabric runs at an angle. And I didn't want to have odd little squares with the design running in a different direction. So I've cut half square triangles for the 3-inch squares. And I'll show you what I mean with the border fabric. Well, I've cut my strips of the border fabric, and as you can see, we've got all of these parallel lines. And what I thought was, where the half square triangles fall, we'll have lines going in this direction. And so I just thought on the inner part of the design, I would also cut these on the half square triangles, just to make sure that the lines are running in the same direction. So that probably sounds as clear as mud. So I'll try and explain it here. So I've got half square triangles here with a background, and then it would have meant if I'd have just cut 3-inch squares from the background that I would have lines going in different ways. And so what I've decided to do is put these going at the same sorts of angles as the half square triangles, and then when the border comes on, all of those lines will be running in the same direction. It might be a bit clearer when I sew the quilt top together. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make this variable star. This is the centre of the quilt, and I'll show you those fabrics. So that's step 1. I'll sew those together and then we'll have a look at putting the outside on. So that looks nice and bright. That yellow really sets off against that dark background. Let's have a look at step 2. So this is step 2. So we're following out the tropical print with the pink, and we have the introduction of an aqua, the dark green and the pale green. And I need 2 of those blocks, and they fit on the top of the star and on the bottom. Put those together next. So they look like that, and we need 2 of those. And there we are, that's the top and the bottom put on. And so now we've got the sides, so they're the same on each side, and then there's a cornerstone. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the block, so it's 2 by 8 squares, and so it's the same as the ones we've just made previously, but we've got 2 little cornerstones. So we've got the aqua and the 3 pale greens, and that will look like that. So I'll sew those together next. So these are the edges like the last time, and then we have the cornerstone. So I'll pop those on, and then we'll slip those sides onto the main star. It is pretty. So the next step is to add the green and the white. And so I need to make 2 bars, which are 8 squares across and 2 deep. So I'll lay that fabric out to show you that. So that's the panel that will fit along the top and the bottom of the star. So I'll sew that together, and there we are. I've just added that edging to the top and the bottom, and it looks so fresh. However, my machine has just started making a very weird sound. It's sewing okay, tension's perfectly fine, but it's just changed the noise that it makes. So I'm just going to strip that down, give it a clean in an oil before going any further. Well, I've taken the base plate off, and I've cleaned out any bits of lint or thread that I've found. And I've made sure that there's oil on everything. There's this little washer made of like a felt. That was quite dry, and I would assume if it's made of felt, perhaps that was to absorb some oil, so I've put some oil on that. And everything else, there's plenty of oil everywhere. Not too much, it's not dripping. So I've just cleaned everywhere, got every bits of lint out, and everywhere seems to be moving freely. So I'll put that back together, then we'll have a look and see if that's working better or sounding better. Like I say, it's working perfectly fine. It's just changed its sound. Well, I've taken apart everything that comes apart and cleaned it and put some oil on, just drop. And there's these 2 screws on the top of the machine here. And in my old machine, there used to be 2 little holes there where you could put some drops of oil. So I took these screws out, and nothing would come apart, so I've just dropped some oil down there, only a few drops, because I'm thinking that's got mechanics going underneath there. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to put it all back together now and see what sort of noise she's making. Well, everything is moving freely. The stitches are perfect. And now I'm not sure whether it's my imagination, whether there's a sort of after click, I don't know. So the last piece that I need to make before I add the border is down the sides now. So it's the same piece as before. So we need 2 of those. And again, we've just got a little 4 patch. So we've got 3 yellow squares and 1 white. So I'll make those, and then we'll add the border. And those are the 2 side panels. So I'll sew those on, and then it's just a matter of the border, and then we'll quilt it. My sewing machine is working perfectly fine. I'm not sure now whether the noises were all in my head. Perhaps it's too late. Perhaps I need to stop sewing if I'm hearing noises. Well, the edging is all on now, all 4 sides, and you can just see where these angles are falling in this background. And now I'm putting the border on, and they're all going to run the same way. It just felt right to do it that way. I know I made a fuss about it and it sounded a little bit confusing, but I shall sew those on now and then I shall quilt it, and I'll show you what that looks like. So that's it, all finished, all quilted and bound, and a label securely sewn to the back for Project Linus. And I think that definitely looks like a spring quilt now. So I think I'm going to make a series of 4, one for each season. And I have enough of the yellow, the white and the green to make another one. So I think the next one might be summer. Same design. I think that might be quite nice. And so I called that quilt Spring Break, and it's really lovely and soft already. But Project Linus from Staffordshire, our chapter, they like to have it washed first, all of the quilts washed. So I'm going to pop this in the washing machine, tumble dry it, and then that one's ready to go. So that's the Spring Break quilt notes put in my journal. There's the photo of it and the swatches of the fabric. And you can see it's the 24th quilt. I completed it on the 14th of October, uploading it today, the 15th. So I've made some notes. I had a fabulous charity find, the yellow plaid cotton, that I used 4 3/4 inch squares and 3 inch squares from my stash. I used pieced batting, 100% cotton, and I intend to make another of this design, a summer one. And I made a little note about my machine, so I must remember to take those top screws out and oil it. And then I will send it on a date in the near future to Sue. And here we are, this is the October page, so I've updated that. And all I do is just colour over the tasks that I've completed. So the 14th of the 10, I made the Project Linus quilt, Spring Break, and the video and the reveal of the journal I'm going to do today. So that's underway at the moment. And I've put down another note to make another Project Linus summer quilt. So I'll upload these now and I'll see you again next week. So next week I might do the summer version of this. I don't really want to plan anything big at the moment because I've got a couple of things that I need to be concentrating on. So yeah, smaller projects, I think. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to. All the information about the making of this quilt will be on the community page, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.